Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing great and enjoying their 2026 and kicking off the year right. And here on the 37th episode of T and Mortgage Podcast with your host and favorite mortgage broker, John Coleman. What's up,
How are
John?
you, Eric? How are you all? You're going to have to stop putting out the numbers there. 37, and it's catching my age up really quick. We're just going to say this is our first episode of 2026. Even saying 2026 has a scary ring to it, but it is what it is. There's no denying time, basically, I suppose. So I'm looking forward to you poking fun at me on this particular
No, you always
episode,
do
shall we
great
say.
with these predictions. You always do great with them. But one thing you got right, Father Time is undefeated, as they say, huh? So
Yeah.
2026 came super fast, and so it's great we get these predictions out in the world, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, buddy. Hit me up with this thing.
All right, here we go. Now, first to recap, of course, at the end of 2025, we went through your predictions from earlier that year, from January 2025, and as usual, you did very well. So credit where credit is due.
And there was
And
probably a little
so,
bit of covering myself in terms of, well, if this happens, that will happen. I wouldn't pretend I had a crystal ball here, Norm. I would be it would be remiss of me for anyone listening. I think we need to put our disclaimer in now. Take this with a pinch of salt to a point, because you could have 10 economists in the room and John Coleman, and you'll have 10, 11 different opinions. So ultimately, all we're here to do is give our best estimate guess as to what the information is out there, and
yeah.
see people make their own minds up.
So there's a big asterisk where this is
Absolutely,
not
asterisks covered, squared,
not
squared.
notwithstanding if there's World War III, if there's aliens land, if the U.S. becomes a third world country, all these different things, right? You never know.
The US is always the unknown, and has been my book bearer for the last number of years. And
Yeah. But hopefully 2026 is on to better, more stable, more normal times these days for everyone. And so, but yeah, we'll jump into it here.
Betting on that, if I was honest.
No.
Sorry for going across you there, but I wouldn't. Sorry, we're going to be upbeat on this particular episode.
Yeah. We won't worry about
my Trump phobia inside me. Okay. We
won't worry about the AI Terminator robots quite yet. That's 2027, I think. So
I'm sure we'll have a conversation on AI at some point later in the year. For sure.
Yeah. But absolutely. So if you want to kick it off for your 2026 predictions, the first thing I have on my list is home prices, which is the big one that everyone is wondering about.
Right. Well, I'll give you maybe a bit of history. Obviously, the prices going back, and we're going to kind of frame this for people so that they can make their own predictions. Every year, there's always a cohort of people that will be saying prices are going to fall because they're too high. Okay, we'll go back as far as COVID times, and as soon as COVID hit the mark, the experts were saying prices were going to fall. I said they wouldn't. Right? I didn't think they'd go up, but I said they wouldn't go down. They didn't go down. They actually continued to go up. Interest rates then went up. People were saying, right, now's the time prices are going to fall. Again, they didn't. And then last year, Trump, with his madness, when we're going to have trade wars with every single country, again, that hasn't had an impact on prices. Prices went up last year, and they've been going up at different levels since basically pre-COVID time, or even before. And fundamentally, and this is my view on this, like, price is determined between demand and supply, okay? And the key issue always has been, since the last 10 years, supply is nowhere near the level of demand. And that goes back even further in time, Norm. It goes back to the time where there was if you remember, the banks crashed, Lehman Brothers, and then the whole kind of banking industry almost basically shut down. And there was no
2008,
Yeah, so from about 2008 to 2013, there was very little properties. There was no mortgages being given. There was no business there. So there's almost half a generation of people who, through the cycle of life, never got themselves on the housing ladder, shall we say. And they're still part of, or there's still a cohort of them, are still part of the demand, shall we say. And then obviously, as each year goes by, you get the next set of people coming along who are then looking, and that the supply isn't able to match the new people. But on top of the new people, there's still people who in the normal cycle of life would have bought a house before now, but because they happen to be born at the wrong time, or where their time for, in effect, buying, literally that market what just wasn't there. So the supply never ever has caught up with the demand. Okay, and that still is the case today. Now, obviously, the interest rates were going up, and I will talk about that later on as to what I expect for them. That did reduce the price rate range,
Yeah.
right? But last year the rates started going down. My view on the prices is sort of twofold, and you can then within each side, and this is where I'm going to cover myself right away. In Dublin, okay, I would see the prices going up not as much as outside of Dublin, okay, purely because they're very high in Dublin as it stands, okay. So the affordability isn't as great, okay. I would still see an increase in prices in Dublin, probably in the region of 3 to 4% over the year. Now that's taking the market in its totality. You're then going to have different segments. You're going to have house prices that might be 600 to 800. They may have either a slightly higher increase, or even probably more likely a slightly lower increase. The house prices that will be in the lower range, I think maybe less than 300, may have a higher increase, okay, because they're more affordable, but there's less of them. So when you're taking the market in total in Dublin, you're probably looking at about 3 to 4%, okay? But again, each category. In the main, the middle market is somewhere in the price range of around 500. I would see that being the average increase, right? The 3 to 4%. And outside of Dublin, I would think the house prices increases will be slightly higher, okay? Because of the affordability. They're lower prices, so they can go up more, and people would be able to afford them, right? So what's happening is people that might be living in Dublin, okay, and I would have said that, I think I've discussed this with you before, are to get better value, are prepared to travel more to work.
Yeah.
If they can get a hybrid
We
job.
talked about that, like, that train, that reasonable train commute or bus commute into work every day. That's the range of where prices are going to,
Yeah. So the house at the outer limit of the sort of the commuter belt, shall we call it, they will be the ones that are likely to go up by the most amount. You're probably looking at maybe 5 to 6% rather than 3 to 4%. That's just would be my take. Now, to cover myself, okay, and that would be if everything remains the same. And interest rates in particular would be one, and we'll have a chat around them. Obviously, demand is a function of confidence, and if there's something sort of a seismic that would affect demand, that would obviously change what I've just said. But as I said, COVID didn't affect the demand, our confidence. The interest rates going up, wars going on, Donald Trump. I don't know what words to describe
being Donald Trump.
Donald Trump has not impacted the demands. But that's not to say there isn't something out there that none of us know about. AI taking over the world or something crazy like that. So suddenly there's no jobs for anyone now. I'm being dramatic here, but that's the only sort of, because I just don't see that in the normal course of events in Ireland, the demand is still so great, and the level of employment and the level of incomes are very strong.
That
I just don't see the prices falling in any shape. But I always tell people, right? I think it's important to put this out there at this point. Like, I personally bought a property at the worst time, actually, right just before the crash. Okay, and within 6 months of buying it, the bottom fell out of the market. Okay, now I got lucky; I didn't have to sell. Okay, but because of that, if I was buying the market now, and this is the advice I give to people: you're buying a home. You're not buying an investment. You're buying a home. Is it near schools? Is it near your job? Is it near your family? Is it near your hobbies? Can you see yourself developing a social structure with where you're buying, right? That for me is the fundamental importance of buying a home, rather than is this the best moment in time to buy a property? Because you could spend your life waiting for the best moment. But
Yeah,
if you're
it's not a
buying,
stock where you're trying to buy today, sell tomorrow, and
eh,
hope it goes up. I mean,
yeah,
that's not how to look at a property, huh?
absolutely. But if you're buying a home and you take a long term view on it, so you take a 10 to
Yep.
15-year view, well, you take a lot of the risk out of the purchase. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you want to buy it at the best possible moment. But if your house is worth 50,000 more next year or 50,000 less next year, it doesn't make any difference to them because you're not going anywhere. You might feel better about yourself if it's worth more, but that's it. Your real risk is always, whether you're renting or buying, is your income, right? So how secure is your job, right? And that ultimately is, um, for me, the most important decision. If you're comfortable with your skill set, comfortable with how employable you are, you're never going to get the perfect moment unless you get like people get lucky when they make decisions, right? And there would be a bit of luck to get it at the perfect market. But if you get a home and you basically are happy with your choice of home, well, that's worth its price in gold, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And just wait it out. It's no matter where you start, you just basically go through one cycle, one normal real estate cycle, which is maybe normally 10, 12 years or
Yeah,
something, and it's all going to even out anyways. But then there's also, it's a bigger conversation, but it's also not just the price you're paying for the home. It's the price you're paying for the money to buy the home. So it's not just your price, it's your interest rate as well. And so those are two other factors that play off each other that people don't talk about. They talk about, I bought the home low, I sold high. Okay, but how much did you pay for the money to buy the home in terms of interest rates, you know?
yeah, a great question, and maybe that might move us on to the next conversation around the interest rates, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Interest rates, basically, and this will be my prediction of have kind of pretty much fell throughout 2025, but all leading experts. So I'm now passing this, not my opinion. I'm saying all the leading experts. The majority opinion is that we pretty much hit the bottom of the interest rate cycle, right? There is no expectation for the rates to go up, and there's
Hmm.
no expectation for the rates to go down as
Hmm.
things stand. Okay. Now, just to kind of, without boring everyone, the function of interest rates is basically to control inflation. Okay. So if there is um, inflationary pressure, so if oil prices were to start to go up, or if the wars that are going on were to create inflationary pressures, okay, and this is what happened after COVID, the prices were skyrocketed, and that's why the interest rates had to go up to kill the demand, to kill the price, to kill inflation, and that has basically it's done its job. That's why the European Central Bank were prepared to lower the rates last year because inflation had become under control. So there's still at this point in time the view on inflation is very much a we've got it where we've got it where we want it to go to, but we
Hmm.
feel if we were to reduce rates further, it actually might spiral inflation again,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But we're not worried that there's inflationary pressures at the moment. But
Yeah.
again, that is always subject to, like, interest rates were incredibly low pre-COVID, and they even went lower during COVID to keep basically demand afloat. But that had a knock-on effect later on when COVID ended. Then there was suddenly all this money, and the prices just continued
Yeah.
to so
Yeah.
the interest rate thing is very much um, it's guided by the European Central Bank, and their view at this point in time is they've done their job and they've
Yeah.
got it. So again, now the European Central Bank is one level of interest rates, okay. Then what the banks here do with those rates is obviously a different
It's
uh,
different.
is a
Yeah.
different is a different kettle of fish. Now you could argue there's only there's not you could argue that the banks are almost in an not a monopoly. What's that word? Not monopoly, but there's a cartel of sorts, right?
Cartel. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now they probably won't like me saying that, but like from an interest rate point of view, they don't. With rates are coming down, in fairness, they don't tend to move them as quickly, and that's people. A lot of people would be giving out about that. But when the rates were going up, they didn't do it either, by the way. They didn't increase them. So they all kind of stay in around the same level, right? And one bank might do something like just to gather a bit of market share, and then the other bank will respond. So now, and we might discuss this on a sort of an interest rate point of view later. There may be other entrants coming into the market, right?
Yeah.
And we might touch on that because
That'll be on our list. But so basically, your prediction, mortgage rates 2026. Give us a number.
well, give us a number. It's going to be the European Central Bank rate will be plus or minus 0.25% as to where it's currently at. There you go.
Okay,
There's my little
perfect.
range, right? The banks in Ireland, well, we'll discuss that maybe in a little bit more when we talk about competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and here's one that maybe you could touch on it quickly that before we pass it over is inventory. When we talk about supply, demand, consumer confidence stuff, but inventory is such a key factor, especially in Dublin. So what are you seeing with property inventory?
Well, that's a great question. And there's literally, I'm going to see a slight spike in there might be okay in the this is really really in the next 3 months. After that, I think it's going to be the same issues, right? In the next 3 months, there's a new rental law that's come out, basically, okay, that landlords are going to be tied in to if they want to sell their house in after March for the next 5 or 6, I think it's 5 years, they can't sell it without vacant. So if you're living in a house and the landlord wants to sell,
Mm,
the person buying it has to continue to take you as a. So there'll be a number of landlords will get out of the market before that. They just won't
hmm
want to. They won't want to. So that might lead to a little bit more from a stock point of view or houses to sell. That might lead to a little bit more
A
stock.
little bump in
I
inventory
would
short
call that a
term.
bump,
Yeah,
though. I would see it then going back to the status quo because in real
yeah.
terms, it's still going to be. I don't think it's going to. The bump isn't going to be big enough to have an effect on prices. The other, and it's slightly, it might even encourage demand on the other side because any new leases after March, at the moment, there's kind of, you're stuck with a 2% kind of increase per year. But if a new lease has been coming into place after March, right, you can basically set the rent, okay? And as much as rents are high, I still think they've been, the market has capped them to a point that the landlords have basically been kind of held back. Even though
hmm
inflation was higher, they were still only able to increase their rates by their rent by 2%. So I would
hmm
imagine the landlords will take the opportunity to, because if they have to lock in for 5 years, they'll be kind of.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just feel there'll be the rental market is going to create some noises, and obviously, if suddenly the rent becomes ridiculous for more people, the demand to buy then becomes even stronger.
Yeah.
So I see a small bump in supply, but not enough to make any difference. I think it's worth bringing it out there, but I don't think it's worthy of having an overall impact on the actual. Like
Which
obviously,
means the supply demand is still
I
imbalanced,
don't see
which
that. I
still
don't see
drives
that.
a little upward pressure
I don't
on
see it.
prices. And yeah.
I don't see that. I don't see
Okay.
that changing.
How about any government schemes new, like you just mentioned that new law, which is a great addition to the any
Yeah,
predictions.
the government schemes, and we discussed this on a podcast recently, or one of our episodes, where the Help to Buy scheme, and no one, it doesn't seem to be getting any media coverage, and I don't think our reach is strong enough there for it to hit to get the national presses on it. But I haven't seen any journalist or anyone query the value of the Help to Buy. And I discussed that, but that's been diluted. Okay, the value of the Help to Buy was 30,000 and still is 30,000. So conceptually it hasn't changed, but the house price is stuck at 500,000. Well, the house you could buy for 500,000 3 years ago would be in the middle of Dublin. Now you have to go outside of Dublin to get that house. So the value of that particular the scheme has diluted in my opinion. That being said, I don't see any noise being made about changing it. So I don't see
Mhm. Yeah.
the Help to Buy changing. If I was looking to, if I had the ear of some politician who is looking to get themselves re-elected, that might be an idea that they could throw out there. But then you always have naysayers. So some people might think it's a good idea, other people might think it's a bad idea, and it is when it's work, and I do believe it is working, but just not as well. Just from giving people choice, like
Yeah.
they're now, because they need to use the Help to Buy. Their preference would have been to buy in Dublin, okay, but they're being forced out of Dublin because there's now no properties that they want or where they want to live based on the help with the Help to Buy scheme. So, sorry, I know I'm not giving any prediction there, but I don't see that. I don't see that changing. But that will be on my wish list if it
Yeah.
could.
If you were running the world, yeah. And how about this is one of your pet peeves, of course, is the banks and their speed and service or lack thereof when it comes to mortgage approvals. I know this was a lot worse years ago, and it used to bother the heck out of you. But what
Yeah,
do you
no, well,
predict for this year?
there's one bank that's come in to the market, NUA, and they have brought an incredibly refreshing technology approach um, to the market, right? And I personally have said that they're now operating at the standard that all banks should operate on. Okay, but are the main, like, it's easy for a new player to come to the market that's small, that's agile, that's nimble, that can bring. But when you're talking about the major banks, right, which would be, there's three pillar banks, and we'll discuss them in more detail, but there's AIB, Bank of Ireland, and Permanent TSB, who are currently up for sale, by the way, but we'll discuss that in a second. Um, they're like oil tankers, okay? Trying to move an oil tanker is not easy. So yes, you could have one particular function within a bank that you feel like should be turned on to a new way of doing things, but they need to look at 100 different implications of that. Like even my own business, if I make a change in the system, I don't always, oh God, if I did that it can cause an issue, right? So
Yeah,
I'm only a tiny entity, but um, the big banks are a huge oil tank. But
they're oil tankers, not speedboats. Like
yeah, now
yeah,
obviously they still have the necessary capital um, to be doing things. But and I know there is work being done in the background to try to make things more efficient. Okay, um, but in a way, I just don't see it happening any. I certainly wouldn't be predicting that in at the start of 2027. I can't believe I've said 2027, but I don't believe at the start of 2027 I'm going to be saying to you, all the bank's service now is literally where it should be, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, but listen, I've seen it work with one of the banks, and I've seen what it should be. Like, from my point of view, I'm constantly building systems. I'm trying to build systems to give our customers the greatest user experience that they possibly can get, or the most efficient one, so that they're getting complete. Um, they they're trying to take as much of the frustration out of it, but at the same time,
yeah,
we're still in a system whereby it can take one of the main banks 2 to 3 weeks just to kind of give you where it could take a main bank
yeah,
2 to 3 weeks to make a decision, where this new bank that's come into the market sometimes has a decision made within a day. So
yeah. Wow.
there's a huge variance of performance, or not performance, but systems. It's not that the banks want to be slow, right? But they don't have the necessary technology or systems in place to make it more efficient.
Yeah, interesting.
But again, our role as brokers then as well, I can't just pass all the blame on to the banks. The brokers have a role. Now, I think 50% of the bank's business would come via brokers up there or thereabouts, right? We have a role to make sure we're presenting, right, in the most efficient way possible as well. Okay, so there is an onus on us to be to play their rules, know their systems inside out, so that we can present it in a way that creates the least amount of
Yeah.
friction. So if the process from our end is frictionless, it does help as well. Okay,
Yeah.
but again,
Garbage in,
so
garbage out, right?
yeah, so I don't want to. It's a team effort, and like everything. But obviously, I've seen where one of the new banks has got to. I just think that should be the industry standard as well.
Yeah.
But
And maybe they will, nudge the others in the right direction when they see
oh,
the
absolutely, I know.
efficiency of
Like
NUA.
I wouldn't even say they're being nudged; they are moving. It's just, and obviously, there's so much testing that needs to be done. And so, look, I'm looking at the implications because they can't just change one thing. It's one thing that needs to be changed across the whole
Yeah.
system. So I'm going to give them a bit of slack on that.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
you keep hearing the bank say, "Oh, we'll have this by quarter one of 2025," and we're now quarter one 2026, and we still don't have things that
And
they
it might be 2027 or beyond, like you said.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and we touched on this next one a little bit, but maybe you want to just give a recap or like just a clear prediction of buyer demand. We talked
Oh,
about sellers, we talked about inventory, mortgage rates, prices, but you basically for predictions for buyer demand.
I don't see that going anywhere. No, we're 1 week into 2026, and in our first week, we sent out 80 mortgage proposals, our roadmaps as we call them.
Hmm.
So that was
Hmm.
80 people coming to us in 1 week
Mm.
looking to get information about buying a house, right? So I certainly don't see the demand going anywhere. In line with obviously people don't want to pay rent. And there's a we've a very strong non-Irish core of our business, right? So a lot, I've nothing but admiration for this, but a lot of people who come to Ireland to live suddenly just they like the way of life. They're doing well for themselves. So then the next kind of they make the decision. Okay, this is where we see ourselves growing our family, integrating our with, and but they're not going. The demand from them doesn't
Yep.
isn't going anywhere. So we have cohorts of people from Brazil, India, Poland, South Africa, America. A number of them come have left because they don't want to live back home anymore. But
Refugees from the USA, yeah.
so yeah, so I just don't see the demand as I just even in the first week, the level of
Yeah.
inquiries that have come out is kind of going mind-boggling. Great for our business, right? But if people are waiting for the demand to fall, I always cover myself. I think for the next 12 to 24 months, I personally cannot see the house prices falling.
See, yeah. Or the
Subject
demand.
to
Yeah.
no world war, no subject to no absolutely out of this world unforeseen event.
Yeah. The big asterisks will.
The big
Yeah,
asterisk.
with our predictions now, we covered a lot of the nuts and bolts of the business thing, mortgage, houses, prices, property, all that stuff. Now let's go to some a little bit more fun entertainment related predictions for John.
I'm going to go back on a second with you because there is stuff I'd like to just talk to you.
Okay.
We'll we'll keep the fun piece going, right? But in relation to the banks and their service and just what they're offering and interest rates, I do want to bring it to sort of highlight what might happen in 2026, right? We will come to the fun stuff, but let me.
No
There
problem.
is
No problem.
right as things stand, right? And one major development at the back end, and I think it would be remiss of me not to talk about it, is Permanent TSB, the third pillar bank, if you want to put it. So there's three main pillar banks: so AIB, Bank of Ireland, and Permanent TSB. They would have about 90% of the mortgage market between the three of them. Okay,
Wow.
Permanent TSB would be the poor sister of the three of them. They probably only have I don't mean only, but about 15% of the market share. Okay, so Bank of Ireland and AIB are the two major players, right? But Permanent TSB we're owned by the government because of the bailout, basically, going back to that, and they put themselves back on the market at the back end of last year. Okay, now there is talk of an Austrian bank buying them out. Okay, so now that can create more competition. I'm just trying to think of the name of this Austrian. They're a company. I pronounce them Bagwag, Bawag, right? And they've been in talks as it stands. But I think that's going to be a slow process, right?
Hmm.
So but if permutations were bought by this company, it would still it could take 2 years for anything to see it through from the central bank point of view, right?
Yeah.
But they may just stick with the status quo, or they could come in and say, right, okay, we're here. Now we want to um, take up market share, basically, and they might start creating. Now, in the background of all this, um, Revolut, right, they have been authorized to sell mortgages in Ireland. Now, they were due
Yeah.
to come into the market last year, but it didn't happen. Okay, they're not quite ready yet. Okay, now they have a huge presence in Ireland. Okay, Revolut is on, I'd say, I'm I'm really throwing this figure out there, but about 70% of people's phones, right? So they've direct access to the market. Now, what they probably don't have is, I wouldn't say the systems are heavily technology based, but they probably don't understand the nuances. And I don't really know at this point whether they're looking to position themselves as a broker or as a bank. I think they'll be positioning themselves as a lender, but are they going to do it directly themselves? Will they use brokers? But they are likely to have an impact. Okay,
Hmm.
A, they're going to be heavily technology focused. B, they may put pressure on NUA, right? Because NUA are a great bank from a tech, but they lend more to people, but their rates are slightly higher. Okay, so depending on what Revolut do, if and when they come to the market, but I do believe they are coming, um, they would basically, they're going to bring competition, right? Now, competition sounds like it's great for the consumer, and it is. But if you've still got three banks got 90%
Yeah.
of the market share, competition just makes a little bit of noise, right?
Yeah.
So you would really, if I was to if you wanted to really shake up the market, this third company that might be buying out permanent TSB, it needs to kind of go, okay, we're at 15%. We want to get to 30%. We want to eat
And
into
get really aggressive, right?
really
Yeah.
aggressive. And that would be where I feel the real shake-up. Revolut coming in, I think would have I think they have a great competitive advantage in that they like reach. Everyone knows Revolut in Ireland.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
there's a huge people use them. They're taking loans with them as things stand. So I just don't know the mechanics of how they'll get how. But obviously, greater brains than me will be working on that in the background, within Revolut to kind of come up with a public offering. Whether they, like, from my own business point of view, I would love them to come to the market and would also like them to be using brokers because that then brings more choice that we can bring to our customers, right? Because what will happen is if Revolut don't come to the market via broker route, they will. And that will be, my instinct is that they won't use brokers at the start unless they really buy into the need to make sure that we're getting like the value of a broker to a bank is
Hmm.
that the broker does all the heavy lifting. The broker filters out all the stuff that they can't filter out, basically,
Yeah.
right? That they're presenting with deals to them that actually make sense, that they're in line with
Yeah.
what they're doing. So they take a lot of risk out of the process for the bank, but they they're a technology company, Revolut, really. Okay,
Yeah.
so they may
Yeah.
feel that they could do that without the help, and that would be obviously that's a strategic decision for them to make. But really, from our end, I'd love to be able to offer it because then you're suddenly the main banks just might wake them up a little bit. If they certainly, as it stands, when they've got 90%, like where is there? There's nothing driving them to really need to change, and that's
Yeah.
where the bank that might buy permanent TSB might be just saying, okay, well, why do we rock the boat? We've got 15% of the market share. There's plenty of return for us there. Maybe we can increase without looking for increasing market share, but maybe we can just create efficiencies that will create
Hmm.
greater profit. And you just don't know, but I just feel it's worthy of bringing it out there that there is things happening in the mortgage market. Um, Probably slowly, because I might have mentioned Revolut at some point last year, and they didn't come to the market. But it does feel like they've got closer. I know they launched in Lithuania, where they're based, with to test it out. Um, Hopefully, they will come this year, and they will create more consumer choice, basically.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Ready for the fun stuff now?
I just felt we couldn't go to the fun stuff and then go back to that serious conversation, if
No,
that
you
makes any
can't
sense.
go. You
And
can't go
so,
from
yeah,
fun
because
back to that
once
conversation.
the hair is down, Norman. I can keep myself ultra professional for the period, and then now we
Yeah,
can.
yeah. Well,
Now we
this is awesome because this year, of course, is a World Cup year. So, do you have any predictions going
okay.
into the
Well,
year?
I will always start by saying who I would not like to win the World Cup, right?
Okay, and I'm taking notes too.
Yeah, and this kind of, and this is being Irish, by the way. So my even at it, it's so almost. I have friends, many friends from this country, and it's almost what else? Hypocritical even. I don't want England to win the World Cup.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll put that out there right now. Okay, um, and but they have a decent team, and they do have a chance. Okay, if you were asking me, I'll give you the kind of what I would say. It's either going to be France, Spain, Brazil, Argentina, and as an outsider, you'd go with England. If I like, and I think I predicted in the Euros, I like Spain, right?
Yep,
Um,
yep.
They'd be the team I want to win, right? Because I just love the way I just like the way they play football, and they obviously won the European Cup. But Spain, it's very difficult to call that, purely because, well, it's you don't cup competitions. Anything can happen. A dodgy referee decision, a last minute goal, anything. But
Yeah,
Spain is
yeah.
my call. Obviously, we have Ireland at this moment in time still have an opportunity of potentially getting there. I would be over the moon if that happens. I don't see that happening because there's a playoff and there's two playoffs, and I don't think we're good enough to get through it. But um,
Mm.
I'm
So you
hoping that
mentioned you mentioned you hope England does not win. You want Spain to win. Who do you think will win then? If you had to bet all your money on it, all your millions.
oh God, well, I don't have that, but if I was putting my €10 bet down, which is probably what I would do, okay, um, Spain.
Ah, okay,
Very
great.
good. Yeah, Spain. Yeah,
Hopefully they're dancing in the streets here later this
uh,
year.
absolutely. Yeah, no, it's there. That's my call because I think history tends to repeat itself, right? And Spain have won the World Cup before, and
Hmm.
when they won the World Cup before, 2 years previous to that, they'd won the European Championships. 2 years previous to this World Cup, they won the European Championships,
Yeah.
Beating England in the final. So there you go, Spain. Put all your money down. You heard it here first, okay?
You heard it on the T and Mortgage podcast, and that's great. How about any other predictions for you with travel this year,
But
concerts, any other?
I'm going to predict because I hate this is what I always hope I'm wrong on. I think I said in the Gaelic we have an All Ireland Championship,
Ah, yeah.
and the team I never want to win it won it last year. Kerry. That's when I was growing up. They were always winning it, and they used to make me cry when I'd go and watch. Um, I think Kerry will win the All Ireland again this year in Ireland,
Mm.
and I really want that prediction to be wrong. Okay, so that's me predicting, hoping I don't get it right. As for travel, I've no distinctive plans this year. I was invited to a wedding in India by
Mm.
one of the freelancers that's been working with me for God 3 or 4 years now, and he's getting married and invited me to go over. Um, I don't know, is the honest. It sounds exciting, but then I won't know anyone over there. I'm the fussiest eater in the world, and Soya, my colleague for got over 10 years, will be getting married in Brazil next year. I think the start
Yeah.
of the year. and I definitely will go to that. Right. So
Yeah.
I need to. So I,
And also
it,
in India, the weddings might be like a 3 day affair or 6 day affair. Like in some countries, it's not show up for 3 hours and leave. It's a
yeah,
big deal, you know?
yeah, it does sound like it's amazing. It'll be an amazing experience. Um, I just need to do some more research to make sure that I, I haven't made a call on it because I might be going to a
Yeah.
couple of other places, and I might go back to New York to watch the tennis again. If my if I can get a visa again. I think I don't know if I told this, but when I went last year, this is how paranoid I become. I got rid of Spotify and Instagram off my phone because I would have had podcasts that kind of made me anxious
Wow.
listening to podcasts about Trump and stuff like that. So that's how paranoid I
Jeez.
was.
Yeah.
And it was a good thing because I took Instagram off my phone and I didn't put it back on because
Yeah.
I was wasting too much time just looking at nonsense. So
Yeah.
it
Doom
was
doom
actually,
scrolling, I think they
yeah,
call it, you know?
yeah, it was a good call. But anyway, where else were we? Sorry, I got distracted there.
No, that's good. Those are great predictions. How about a prediction, our last prediction here for 2026? Will there be any new house plants? Will there be a decor change behind you on the wall, maybe?
Well, a good
You know what
friend,
I'm leading.
a good friend has got me this right.
Look at that. Look at that. It's
Uh,
beautiful.
that has to go on the wall. Right? That's the next. It's not my core skill, but I have something lined up to do it. So this time next year, we will definitely, I promise you, my friend, we will definitely have that JC Mortgages sign on the wall.
Nice. Hopefully well
I
before.
assume that it's where you were going, yeah?
Of course, you could
For
read my
anyone
mind.
would, for anyone wondering, let me formally thank Norm. That was his Christmas present to me, it's fantastic. I just need to show some gratitude and get it on the wall, but it will be there. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. And those are the predictions for 2026. I love it. Anything else to add, John?
No, just wishing everyone a great 2026. Whether like buying a home is obviously what we do, what we help, but for me, and I've said this many times, your personal happiness is the most important thing. So do things
Yeah.
that make you happy, because like it is tough to buy a home out there. So don't let your life be revolving around can I or can I not buy a home. There's so many. Life has got so much more to offer. Obviously, it's an incredible achievement, and you can something to feel really proud about. But um, just enjoy life. So I sound like I'm a
Yeah.
preacher. I find like I'm a preacher here,
It's
but
great. It's
yeah,
great. Health, happiness. There's an infinite rate of return on investments in your health, your happiness, your relationships. That's what it's all about. So it's cliche, but it's also true, you know?
yeah, no, it definitely is. And any other predictions? Um, no, I'm hoping to be still as touch wood healthy as I am right now. Apart from I think my ribs that I ran into a wall playing squash, but we'll pretend that didn't happen. And I'm hoping I'll be able to sneeze properly in
Oh.
2026. But no, that's great. Wishing everyone a great year, and obviously, if buying a home is part of the agenda, feel free to reach out, and we'll help with produce a roadmap for you. That's what we do. But please don't let it be the end of everyone's life because ultimately we're all here. We've walked one journey on this life and make the most of it.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. And we'll leave it at that. TN Mortgage number 37. Hey, John, thank you so much, buddy, huh? Have a great one.
Cheers, my friend. Talk to you soon, okay?